36,000 ounces a day at current prices. It's a 600% increase in what they were doing. And when you put that in context to what we are seeing coming off of the exchanges, it's part and parcel with what I've been screaming over and over and over again. Yeah, I say the same stuff. I do, but it keeps happening and it keeps happening and it keeps happening. And if you don't pay attention, you miss it. The recent data, as of August 31st, shows us that when you talk about the amount of silver that's been taken off just the LBMA in the last month from July 31st to August 31st, July 31st, they call it the float in London. There's 800 million ounces of silver in London on the LBMA. 500 million belong to the ETF. So the float, the 300 million, are the ounces that are available to be delivered that back the bars. So when we talk about the float at the end, the last day of July in 2024, that float was 336 million ounces of silver, or 10,440 tons. At the end of August 31st, 1 month later, it's 309 million, or 9,599 tons. In other words, 27 million ounces, or 8.1% of all the silver in the London vaults was drawn down in 1 month, in the month of August. And so when you talk about how fast this is happening, it's ridiculous. And then you look at COMEX, and since November 2020, when I started on talking about this with you, that's about when I started talking about all the deliveries coming off of COMEX that had never happened before. Never. We've seen in gold, 2,136 tons of gold have stood for delivery, and 24,072 tons of silver have stood for delivery. And I remember I said that just in terms of the amount of 336 million ounces is 10,440 tons. Well, since November of 2020, we have seen this massive amount of 24,000 tons taken off. So you're talking, almost what are we talking? 800 million ounces. That's almost the exact amount that India has imported in the last 3 years. And so this is something that should not be overlooked or taken lightly. That doesn't even take into account those numbers off of COMEX, the exchange for physical, which we've talked about, where massive amounts of gold and silver are purchased in the West and delivered in other parts of the world, usually London. But there is that little known contract that was developed in 2015 that allows metal to be delivered to Brinks, Hong Kong, which is a COMEX facility, which then it's usually in the kilo bars, the mini contract on COMEX, or the mini kilo bars. Well, that's what's traded on the Shanghai Metals Exchange. So they can buy and stand for delivery on the mini contract and send it to Brinks, Hong Kong, where then who knows where it goes, probably gets trucked over to the Shanghai Exchange, which deals in kilo bars. The point of it is that all of these countries understand what is happening, and they understand that the suppression of the Western market is that's how they win the game. And they're just flaunting it right in our face, not only by taking delivery, but saying, yeah, we're going to buy 36,000 ounces a day for the next month. This is what they're doing. They're using the suppression of the Western paper market against us. I've been saying that forever, and they are draining the exchanges. So let me just read this to you. It's about 4 paragraphs. But I want you to keep this in mind as we talk about the potential for them revaluing the price of gold and why all of these countries are massively buying it, okay? So this is 1974. America's objective, the official transcript of the meeting quotes Enders as saying, was to move towards a demonetization of gold to begin to get gold moving out of the system. Kissinger asks, why is it against our interest to have gold in the system? Enders replies, it's against our interest to have gold in the system because for it to remain there, it would result in being revalued periodically. Although we still have substantial gold holdings, a larger part of the official gold in the world is concentrated in Western Europe. Well, now it's concentrated in the East. Anyways, he says this gives them the dominant position in world reserves and the dominant means of creating reserves. We've been trying to get away from that into a system which we can control. Kissinger says, but that's a balance of payments problem. Here's the cool part. Yes, but it's a question of who has the most leverage internationally, Enders answered. If they have the reserve creating instrument by having the largest amount of gold and the ability to change its price periodically, They have a position relative to ours of considerable power. All right. So now we talk about gold in the unit and gold being used to back a new system. And who's buying all the gold? Oh, yeah, it's the central banks, more so than in any time in history. And what is gold? We know it's the only other tier one reserve asset. And what are they doing? They're all repatriating it and bringing it home. And what's happened in China over the last 6 months? Well, they've pushed silver $4 an ounce higher than it is quoted in the West. So isn't that really the price? So if you are a sophisticated trader or an idiot trader on Goldman Sachs or JP Morgan, well, you got 50 million ounces, you can sell at a $4 premium. You just cleaned house. You just made $200 million. So you're happy about that, but that 50 million ounces, that ain't never coming back. Never, never, ever. And so the point is that is the price. So when you talk about they knew this in 1974 and gold is held on every central bank balance sheet in the revaluation account. And Enders was telling Kissinger, we can't let them have the gold. They can revalue it. Well, what if that's the ultimate plan of the BRICS nations? What if they're the ones buying all of the gold, not really telling us how much they have been buying? What if Russia's been buying that much under the table for a long time? They're not telling us how much they produce at all, nor is China. The IMF said China has way more gold than they tell us. Your buddy Alistair, who I think is one of the smartest guys in the world, says they have 40,000 metric tons. Not the 2,700 metric tons that they tell us that they have. And the head of the IMF said they got way more. The lead analyst for Bank of Montreal says they have. Well, what if all of these countries ultimately plan to revalue gold just the way that Senator Loomis talks about? Now you have a dominant position to create a new system or to create reserves. So I think it's very interesting when you see that these countries are accumulating the gold the way that they are. It's no small thing. It shouldn't be underestimated. It shouldn't be dismissed. It's a very big deal, whether it be draining the exchanges or just outright buying, or like we said last week, China going all around the world, according to Sean Kun, the head of Dolly Varden Silver, and buying up all the concentrate and all of the doré bars from the miners and then sending it home and refining it so the metal doesn't come off of an exchange. It doesn't come off of a platform that allows the price to be affected or the volume to be tracked. This is a high stakes game, and we are losing and they are winning, and they are using our stupidity of suppression of the paper markets to do so. It's a big deal, Dunnigan. It's a really big deal.